Hello, everybody. Welcome to our ongoing coverage of E3 2016. I'm Matt Miller. I'm joined by Kyle Hilliard.
I'm here with you, Matt Miller.
How you doing, Kyle?
I'm excited about Bethesda stuff.
Bethesda's press conference. Its second big press conference since it has started trying to play with the big boys, you might say.
Yeah.
Bethesda, to be fair, has been playing with the big boys for a long time in the actual games that they put out. But starting last year, they joined EA and Ubisoft and some of the other third-party publishers who want a big name for themselves by sort of doing their own big press briefing themselves, independent of the console holders like Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo. And last year, it was an impressive show. So we have, I think it's fair to say, high expectations this year that that they'd be doing something pretty cool as a sophomore effort to show that this is something that they can continue to do, that they have the broad sweep of potential franchises in any given year that they can put on a good show and show off what they've got coming and compete with companies like Ubisoft and EA who are also trying to make the same case.
Yeah, last year, because if I remember correctly, last year they announced Fallout 4 before the show. Like, they announced, like, hey, this is coming, here's a little trailer. But then they showed a ton of gameplay. They released Fallout Shelter. They had a bunch of Doom gameplay. It was a good show. They had, like, a lot to reveal for games that people were excited about.
I think one of the things that was striking about last year's Bethesda press conference was how much they went kind of deep on the main projects that they had running in a way that some of the other third-party publishers did not do and don't do in the way that they present their games. There was a long demo of Fallout during that show where they really showed off all sorts of features about the game that nobody had seen yet. And it was also where we got the first real look at a lot of the components of what was going to make up Doom. Not to mention some announcements of things that we're going to get more depth on this year.
They revealed Dishonored 2. That was last year, right? That was another like big sort of reveal that happened. So
absolutely, they had and since then they've been relatively dark, with the exception of we did have our cover story, Game Informer's cover story on Dishonored 2 recently, and that game looks very cool. I think we have every expectation that is going to be sort of their showcase piece for tonight's presentation.
Yeah, I feel like that would almost be, if I had to bet, like, because this is all about predictions, we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
I would think that Dishonored 2 would be kind of the equivalent of what Fallout was last year, so to speak. Like where they showed a lot of new stuff, they showed a lot of gameplay. Like they will spend more time on Dishonored 2, I would think, than any other press conference probably devotes to a single game. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't know. Maybe they don't have that much to show. Maybe in our cover story we revealed a lot of the stuff that they wanted to,
Well, a lot of that
withhold.
stuff hasn't been seen publicly yet.
That's true.
And so they have the opportunity now to share some of that info in this big stage that everybody's actually watching in a live video format, and that's pretty exciting. So we would think that'd be a big thing. But before we get too much into what Bethesda's likely to have, I want to put things in context a little bit with what we were watching earlier today. A few hours ago, Electronic Arts took the stage in a strange press conference that mixed a Los Angeles presence and a London conference at the same time.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I felt that I was like, oh, we're getting this global look. It was more like sometimes they would cut to Peter Moore and he would be on a similar stage.
Yeah, it was interesting. I guess what they probably were kind of trying to go for there is the idea that they have some big international brands, which they do.
Yeah, FIFA, man.
FIFA's big, Star Wars is big, all around the world. Yeah, and I think that EA was interested in sort of showcasing that it has that international reach, but also having a chance to show off that it has some of the biggest brands in the gaming industry. They have internal properties like Mass Effect and Titanfall, which are both expected to be really big projects, along with big license relationships with Star Wars and with sports organizations like FIFA. And I think they made a decent case that they have a lot of properties and a lot of games in the works, but they didn't show off a lot of actual content.
Yeah, they more presented a list of like, look, we got a lot of stuff, and it's going to be really cool. Just trust us. Here's a tiny little bit of Mass Effect. Here's even less of Star Wars. here's a lot of FIFA.
Yes.
Here's a lot of Madden.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah, so it made the case certainly that EA's got a potentially strong lineup.
Yeah,
interesting properties that they're working on and that they have coming up in the next couple of years. But man, a lot of those properties are out a long way. Some of those Star Wars games are set for 2018, a couple years away before we'd expect to see them. So, I think it's safe to say that Bethesda is going to be very different from that, based on what we saw last year.
Yeah, Electronic Arts didn't really have any surprises, I would say. I mean, maybe it's a product of leaks, like things like Titanfall leaked this morning and that kind of thing. But I didn't walk away from EA with any revelations. We got I think the closest we got to that was a little snippet of Amy Hennig's and Visceral's Star Wars game.
Yeah,
that was about the most surprising thing I feel like I saw. I'm optimistic that Bethesda will have more surprises.
Yeah.
But I don't know. In terms of what they'd have to bring out something new. I don't. Do you think they would have a new IP? I don't think so.
That would be a big surprise if it was a new IP. We have a lot of established IPs that we are expecting to see some stuff about. So let's talk about those.
Yes.
Already one of them that we already mentioned is Dishonored 2. What would you like to see from them with that game at the show this year?
I would love it if let's say it kicked off the show. I don't know if that's the case, but I would love it if they're just hey, here's a bunch of gameplay. We're going to play for 10 minutes or something. Just walk us through a level. I would just like to see that game in action because I've seen some pre-rendered stuff, but just not a lot of just straight gameplay, which is what I would really like to see from Dishonored. I don't know. What do you think? Did you like the original? Are you excited about the sequel?
I like the original, and I'm intrigued by the kind of two main characters being.
I'm excited to play as Emily.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to learn about what makes those characters distinct from one another, and get a little bit more context about how the choice of how you proceed through that game is going to affect the outcome. That was a big aspect of what the first Dishonored was about, is if you're sort of going along the chaotic path or you're trying to be very stealthy and how that kind of affected things. I'd love to get a little bit sense of how they plan to do that.
Sure.
So we'll see, but it would be totally crazy if we didn't see Dishonored 2 as a big part of the presentation we're about to watch. Another thing that has been heavily rumored, but let's be clear, is still a rumor as of this moment.
Yeah, could be different in 30, 40 minutes.
Could be different in a few minutes, but there's been a lot of talk that there is going to be some sort of Elder Scrolls-related thing here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it feels really early to me based on just watching Bethesda over the course of the last decade plus of professional coverage of that publisher. It would be very surprising to me to see a full-on sequel to Elder Scrolls mentioned tonight.
It's certainly it's next in line in terms of what Bethesda is doing, and it's Fallout. We had Elder Scrolls 5 and then Fallout. Now Elder Scrolls is up to bat.
Yeah,
but I've seen a lot. We've seen rumors online and that kind of thing, but I think it's more long shot hopefulness rather than any kind of concrete details. If they announced an Elder Scrolls 6, which I don't think that's going to happen, but if they did, I think that would be one of the huge takeaways from E3 2016. That's what we would be talking about over the next couple days.
It would be.
Yeah.
But if they did, it would be a fair bet that there wouldn't be anything there. And that's a little bit out of character for Bethesda. When they show off a game, it tends to be it's not vaporware. It's this game is alive. It's functional. Check it out.
Fallout 4 was a perfect example of that.
Exactly. So instead, what might we expect? A lot of rumors pointing towards the idea of a remaster of Skyrim being a possibility. If that happens, that's, I think, cool. Certainly one of the big things that came out of Fallout, the recent Fallout, was the availability of mod support on console.
There's also that idea that which Bethesda brought up when they talked about the development of Fallout 4, that it was almost practice with new gen, is that they kind of played around with some remastered Skyrim, or was it Oblivion? Do you remember? I would assume it's Skyrim.
I don't remember, but it was certainly some of the
Yeah.
It was old Elder Scrolls stuff that they were experimenting with. So
like they've admitted to toying with the idea. It's it's something that they have in their pocket that they've at least dabbled with. So it wouldn't surprise me.
So that would be an interesting announcement, but I'll be interested to see how that they could make that something that would be exciting for their fan base. Just because, I mean, if you were gonna play Skyrim, you've played Skyrim, right?
You've
that was
played a lot.
Huge game, and you've probably put in 100+ hours several years ago. What can they do if they are offering a new take on whether it's Skyrim or some other Elder Scrolls game? How can they make that compelling as a purchase? And if that is what they end up announcing, and it is the thing that's related to Elder Scrolls that has been rumored, I'll be interested to see what they have to say on that topic.
Yeah.
Another long dormant franchise that there's been much chatter about is a sequel to Prey.
Yeah.
You remember this game?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm laughing because your word you paused on, it's like chatter.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is he going to say here? Because it was like they teased it, then they had a CG trailer, then it was like we thought it might be canceled, and then it was canceled, and it's like rumors are now that if it is in fact still development, it's with a new developer. It's like all over the place. But I would like it for it to exist.
Yeah.
The ideas, even if it's changed developers and sort of changed direction, some of the early ideas that they had sort of publicly announced for Prey 2 were very interesting and cool, and I enjoyed the first Prey. I wonder how it holds up today, these many years later, but I enjoyed my time with Prey when I played it.
Prey had one of the most memorable opening sequences of a game when it first released and then a lot of what happened afterwards in that game fades into memory. Fades out of memory, rather.
Once the licensed Heart soundtrack kind of faded away, you kind of don't remember.
Yeah, but it was cool, and there were certainly some neat ideas that were getting played around with in that title.
Portals,
yeah, a lot of cool stuff. A Prey 2, I think it's safe to say, is not going to be. I would be really surprised if it was anything close to what they announced previously.
Yeah, which is that like 6
now,
years
that
ago
game was
now,
pretty much
like
straight
that?
up canceled.
Yeah.
And the rumors are that Arcane, the same people who work on Dishonored, they might have a second team working on that project. So we'll see if that sees the light of day during the press conference tonight.
Do you have what's your percentage on Prey 2? Because I'm pretty low. I would say like 40% chance.
I don't know. It does seem like it would be kind of unusual to have two games from one development studio.
Yeah, if that's the case. That's still rumor, you know, the Arcane stuff.
Absolutely. And so it'd be a little bit of a surprise, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibility.
I'm more optimistic about that than Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Now, there's another game that I think a lot of people are hoping to see sometime really soon, and that is Quake.
Yep.
Even our editor-in-chief just tweeted recently. Andy McNamara was talking about his eagerness and expectation that maybe we'll see some Quake.
Should I quote him here?
Yeah, man.
Andy McNamara says, "After Wolf, we got Doom. So who else thinks we get Quake next? Has to be coming."
We'll see.
Which is pretty good. I mean, that logic is sound. You know, if they want to keep looking back to those old popular franchises, it seems like there's a good chance Quake would be up next.
Yeah.
You know?
What it would be, that remains to be seen.
I don't know.
How they would take. I mean, we are coming off of a very successful. I think we have to label it a very successful igniting of the Doom brand. That game was very well liked by just about everybody who I've talked to who's played it. I thought it was very cool. Had a speed and a sort of frenetic excitement about it that was different from most of the shooters on the market. And was also just really beautiful in its weird, hellish, gory way.
Violent way.
Yeah. So that same sensibility brought to Quake could be very cool.
Yeah.
Now, whether that happens, we'll have to wait and see.
And kind of on that same line of reasoning, where that Doom was very good, we feel, Wolfenstein was also we thought was very good.
Yep.
And that kind of feeds into that sort of Quake logic. Like maybe Quake is up next because they've had two good games that were based on their older IPs.
Right.
So that could be Quake. Also, Wolfenstein's going on. It was like 2 years ago it came out. Now
Yeah,
about.
I mean,
So maybe there's time for sequel talk with that. I know they did a little. I don't know what you would call it. It wasn't quite DLC. It was bigger than DLC, but it wasn't a full-on sequel. It was kind of one of those things that exists in the middle of that, right?
Yeah. My internal clock about when game sequels are coming tells me that we're pretty close to being due for some Wolfenstein news. That reboot of the franchise did well. I think people enjoyed it. It's had some time to settle. A studio like Machine Games has had the opportunity probably to either move on to something else or go on to the next step with that brand, which is, I think, the more likely scenario, given that it was pretty successful. So, that one wouldn't be
too surprising to see that.
Wouldn't be a huge surprise there either.
Guys, just real quick to interject. This is Wade, sorry, in the booth, the
Hello,
disembodied
Wade.
voice. So the press conference, I've received word, will begin in about 10 minutes.
Got it. Got it. Well, there are a couple of other projects that we can talk about in the meantime that there's a lot of stuff here that we just don't know for sure about, but things that are maybes for Bethesda, things that are, I think we could say, due for consideration. And another project like that is Mikami's Evil Within. Tango Softworks released really a cool new take on, well, I don't know if it's a new take, but a revived take on kind of that horror experience that echoed in many ways kind of the old Resident Evil-esque vibe. Makes sense given the creative voices behind it. Again, a strong property from Bethesda that did well upon launch. It wasn't the biggest game in the world, but it also, I think, for the people who it was looking to reach, that whole kind of old school tense horror experience did well, and now might be the time for an Evil Within 2.
Yeah, I will say when Dishonored came out and it was pretty quickly successful, Bethesda was already out there and they're like, we have a new IP on our hands. We've got a franchise here. We're ready to move forward. I don't think I ever got that from Evil Within. Like, I don't think I think it did well, as you're saying. Like, I know we reviewed it well, and I think I don't know how it sold. Like, it's hard. It's always hard to know those things. But I didn't see Bethesda like cheering about it. So I don't know. Sometimes that means like that. Well, let's do something different. This isn't. Let's not go forward with this. Also, sometimes it means we got the groundwork. Let's do something even better for the sequel. Like So maybe that's what's happening with Evil Within. I think there's certainly room for that game to have a sequel for sure.
I think it's another one that's in that list of kind of maybe possibilities.
Also, we haven't Shinji Mikami. We just haven't really heard from him at all. I mean, not to say that he's not one of those sort of developers that's always out there, kind of like championing himself and talking about what he's working on. He's not like Kojima where he's like tweeting, hey, I'm like traveling the world and stuff like that. But we haven't heard anything from him. Like he's very quiet, which implies to me that he's busy working on something as opposed to trying to pitch a new project or work with a new studio or something like that.
Right.
So,
in the sphere of talking about, we sort of moved past in the Elder Scrolls thing as we talked about kind of the classic Elder Scrolls properties and what everybody wants there to be with an Elder Scrolls 6 that we don't think is necessarily going to happen.
Yeah. We could be eating our feet here in a little bit.
We may be eating our hats, so to speak. That would be great.
Wait, can you go get us some hats, actually?
What kind?
The tastier the better, please.
Yes, please. But beyond that, the low likelihood, let's say, of an Elder Scrolls 6, and the slightly higher likelihood that we're going to see something that's like either a remaster or maybe some sort of interesting side take on Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, that's something I haven't really thought about. Not necessarily like a full-on Elder Scrolls 6, but there's always room for other genres in that world. Even if we want to get like really sort of aim for the stars, like maybe they could do a spin-off. I don't know.
Well, Bethesda did have good luck last year with Fallout Shelter, which was a free mobile game that got them a lot of attention during the show, just because it was really cute. It used the whole kind of Fallout Boy aesthetic to good use, and wasn't the best mobile game I've ever played in final analysis, but it was fun for a little while, right? And
what that idea, actually thinking about that Fallout Shelter, because that was like a big thing for them, was like, hey, we've got this interesting mobile game, it's out now. And then earlier we were talking about I sort of think Dishonored has the potential to be the focus in the same way Fallout was.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll have like a Dishonored mobile game. There was a Dishonored mobile game that released alongside the first one that was incredibly forgettable, dare I say bad. I didn't play it very much, but I think you kind of swipe and kill rats. I think it was like Fruit Ninja with rats or something like that. I hope I'm right about that. But like that
no recollection of that, Kyle. I hope you're right about that.
But I'm saying like maybe that's something that could be a big announcement. Is like we've got this companion game for Dishonored. I don't know what it would be, but I mean that's an interesting steampunk-esque world where they could do a lot of different things in it. And I think Shelter was such a big hit last year. As far as like an announcement that people could start playing immediately.
Yeah.
Even people at the show, that's kind of a big thing. Is like when we're here, we're home, but most of our staff is in Los Angeles covering the show.
Right.
When they make those announcements on stage, like you can play it now, most of us are like, well, we can't. We're here in Los Angeles, But Fallout Shelter was one we could go back to our hotel rooms and immediately start downloading and playing.
Which a lot of people did.
Yes. So I wonder if there's something in the works like that.
Yes. Well, they do have their card game, their Elder Scrolls Legends card game.
Yes, which they're showing right now during their pre-show.
Yes, yes, indeed. But they also could be doing something different than that and more involved than that. We haven't talked about one other Elder Scrolls property that is sort of an ongoing thing, even though I think we don't always pay super close attention to it anymore, is Elder Scrolls Online. That's still an ongoing game. It might be a little bit unusual if they didn't address in some way that they have that property and that they want to continue to develop it, continue to draw in new people. And so I would expect that's another thing that we might see a little bit of here.
Yeah, maybe a big expansion or something like that, and maybe to kind of add a little bit of excitement to it, they could do a simultaneously release for the PC and console versions, because that was a big deal when it came out on consoles. I think it made a little bit of a splash. So, you kind of always forget about those MMOs, but there's a huge community of people playing that game, and I think they'll be very excited to see a new expansion, maybe go to a different section of that world or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Beyond that, I think you're really veering into stuff that seems wildly unlikely. Stuff that if the Bethesda press conference was on time, we might not even be talking about.
Yeah, that's right.
But we were thinking ahead, Kyle, you and I, in case this exact thing happened. There's some other properties that are Bethesda games that it's not completely impossible that we would hear about a new installment, but it's unlikely. Yeah. Among those is a little game called Brink.
Yeah. I feel like I know we have Mike Futter, our news editor.
Yeah.
Huge Brink fan for some reason. We make fun of him all the time for it. But that game had an interesting look to it.
It did.
And it was one of those games that was, I don't know, maybe I'm almost I'm like tempering what I'm about to say is like before its time. Like it had some interesting ideas in it. It just didn't fully execute. I know that studio has moved on to different things. I think they're doing Dirty Bomb now, that free-to-play shooter. But but Bethesda still has Brink, and they're, who knows, man, Brink 2.
It's not impossible,
It's
but
not
it is
impossible.
Very, very unlikely.
Yeah.
A game that I rather like that we haven't heard about anything about getting a sequel for, but one that was kind of neat, Wet.
Yeah.
Very, very sort of like super violent, stylized shooter thing.
I didn't play that one a ton. That was kind of a stealth game, right? Am I way off about that?
No, it was like
Okay, I must be confusing it.
pretty like shooter actiony.
Female protagonist,
yes, that's right.
Okay. I remember it a little bit.
And so that's another property that again I would put on the that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of the reviews. I think I remember there were a lot of puns related to the word wet,
and it was pretty middling just in general.
Yeah.
They have Rage.
Rage, yeah, from id, who I can't imagine that they're working on Rage after doing so well with Doom, unless they like split their resources and had like a bunch of like working on Doom and then a small team, getting John Goodman on the phone for Rage 2.
This is gonna be another one of those eat my hat things. I don't think it's happening, Kyle.
Yeah.
But certainly among the properties that Bethesda has rights to, here's a crazy one for you.
Okay,
you ready?
No.
Rogue Warrior.
Rogue Warrior. We played that on our show replay here recently, and I don't think there's gonna be another Rogue Warrior. That was based on a comic book, I think. Actually,
no, Rogue Warrior.
Okay.
Rogue Warrior is based on a series of books.
Oh, excuse me, books
about they're effectively
books without pictures, if you will.
Books without pictures that by this soldier by the name of Dick Marcinko, I believe is his name.
Mr. Marcinko, of course.
Who was a special ops soldier himself, and then wrote these books that were basically kind of autobiographical, kind of not. And the first one was called Rogue Warrior. Okay. I know this because I went to an event in Las Vegas to learn about Rogue Warrior and met the man himself.
And that was 2 generations ago, right? Wasn't that Xbox game?
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, so that's another one that's like, I don't think we're going to be seeing Rogue Warrior 2, but it's in Bethesda's pocket.
One of the lowest scoring games that Bethesda has released in a very long time. Yeah. Certainly from us and from a lot of other outlets. So unlikely. One of the other things we know about this evening's press conference from Bethesda is that they plan to have some demos afterwards, which is kind of a cool thing, and a continuing expansion of where Bethesda sees themselves in the E3 landscape, I think it's fair to say. Last year, they made this big push of having their own conference, which they did well at, and the how to say it, the prevailing sentiment seems to be towards letting showgoers, as soon as they hear games talked about at a given press conference, let them play, let them eat cake, so to speak, right? And that is what they're doing here for Bethesda's conference. So I think we can expect to hear some actual hands-on impressions pretty soon after the show from various outlets, and hear people kind of talking about what they like, what they don't like, in advance of even when the main show floor opens on Tuesday. They also have, I don't know you're excited about this one, Kyle.
I know it.
They also, it is a known fact that they are going to bring Blink-182 out after this press conference.
That's so strange to me. I don't relate them to any of Bethesda's properties in any way. Like it's like pop punk. Like maybe it would almost make sense like if they had a metal band or something coming, because it's like, hey man, Doom, here's how many copies of Doom we sold. Doom is being awesome. Here's some metal to celebrate Doom. But it's like they're gonna like cut to Blink-182, which is like, okay, that's an interesting idea, I guess. It's very strange.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see and hear some feedback from our editors who are there at the press conference and see what is made of that.
It's a strange thing because I'm not really sure. Like just in general, because this isn't. They're not the first people to have like music like close out a show or be part of a show. Like, I guess they're putting it there with the idea of it's for the journalists and stuff in the crowd. They get to see like a rock show, but it's like, I don't think we don't get anything from that. We're there to like talk about video games, and then it's like, okay, well, are the people watching online going to stick around for a live concert,
or are they even going to broadcast that?
I don't know.
It is unclear.
It's very strange, and this is coming from, I will admit, a Blink-182 fan. I was telling Matt Miller I learned how to play drums and guitar by listening to Blink-182, and I don't understand why they're.
But that was a long time ago, to be fair.
Life is yes, that was a long time ago.
Well, yeah, there's a long history of various publishers trotting out some big bands at E3 in the name of, I don't know, kind of,
or bringing
we're big enough to make this happen.
Or bringing in celebrities like Jamie Foxx and Zac Efron backstage to admit that they're there for some reason.
To play some Battlefield, apparently.
Right.
Yeah, that was a strange moment earlier today. But yeah, this will be... an interesting experience. I mean, they're already starting late on a conference that is one of the later E3 press conferences that I can remember.
Yeah.
I mean, usually the latest ones. Usually Sony has one that is set very frequently. It's set sometime in the evening. It is this year again set tomorrow evening, which again we'll be covering. Bethesda, maybe with the whole Blink-182 thing, is hoping to tap the like, hey, it's night, let's have a party kind of a vibe. I don't know.
Because we'll find out.
I guess we'll find out.
I'm still very excited about this, though. Bethesda had a really good show last year. We weren't really sure what to expect last year. We knew Fallout was going to be there, and we were all very excited about Fallout. But they set a high bar, I feel like, for this, like you said, for their sophomore effort, and so that makes me optimistic. I'm excited to see what they have.
Yeah, absolutely. And going into tomorrow, we still have the kind of first party conferences. One of the things that's interesting to note when we see like EA's today, Bethesda's this evening, is that these are both major third-party publishers who have deep relationships with the console holders that they're working with. And so even as we learn, like with EA, they were showing off stuff related to Battlefield. Tonight, we're likely to see stuff related to Dishonored from Bethesda. It would not be at all unusual to see some of that stuff continue to get more like additional demos, additional trailers during the Microsoft conference, the Sony conference. And that'd be great because some of those big titles deserve multiple showings. And we'll see them in lots of different places.
Yeah.
Throughout the next few days.
Yeah, I'm excited for what's coming up for sure.
Well, Wade, how are we looking in there? It looks like they're getting pretty close to getting
getting started. Yeah, it looks like 5
started.
seconds here, so I think we can go into it.
So
Let's do it.
We'll see what they have to say. Well, Quake Champions. There we go. Brand new Quake game.
Yeah.
To start Bethesda's show.
Like some different classes, maybe.
Yeah, it looks like they're kind of
please
embracing the whole
welcome Studio
class-based
Director of id
direction of
Software,
things.
Tim Willits.
Good evening, and welcome to the Bethesda E3 Showcase. Yes, Quake is back. The game that defined competitive multiplayer is back and better than ever. You know, it's hard to believe that 20 years ago, Quake was first released. And, you know, if you'll excuse the pun, the aftershocks can still be felt to this day. Quake set new standards for multiplayer and pushed the boundaries for graphics and gameplay. Quake also became a pioneer for esports, and 20 years later, Quake is still played in tournaments across the globe. The biggest of those tournaments is our very own annual gathering, QuakeCon, which will attract this August tens of thousands of people to Dallas. As a co-designer of the original game, I'm extremely proud and excited to be standing here today to announce the next chapter of this great game, Quake Champions. Quake Champions is a competitive, arena-style, first-person shooter for the PC, designed for players of all skill levels. Whether you are new to Quake or have been fragging for the last 20 years, Quake Champions will give you the challenge and rush you'd expect from id Software multiplayer games. Now, we know that high-end performance is critical with this type of game. So be assured, as with any id Software game, that Quake Champions will be fast, with amazing graphics running at 120 hertz with unlocked frame rates. Yes. You're going to get heart-stopping action that will keep you on the edge of your seat as you fight in classic arena combat. Quake Champions also taps into another hallmark of the franchise: unique and badass characters. The game features a diverse cast of warriors, each with different attributes and unique abilities, allowing you to fight the way that you want. And you know that id has a long tradition of supporting competitive tournaments, and that continues with Quake Champions. The game is designed for world-class esports play at every level, from the world's greatest Quake players to anyone willing to test their skills in the arena. So as part of the launch plan for Quake Champions, Bethesda will be supporting and expanding competitive tournaments and leagues beyond QuakeCon, and we'll have more to share about that in the coming months. I hope you enjoyed this sneak peek into our newest game. Join us at QuakeCon in August, and we'll have even more to talk about. And now, please join me in welcoming Bethesda's Global Vice President of PR and Marketing, Pete Hines.
So, like EA, a lot of talk about esports.
Yeah, it seems very competition-focused is what they want to do with Quake, for sure.
Yep, and it's showing that continues to be a big focus for all the publishers.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. As Tim said, we'll have even more to show on Quake Champions this August at QuakeCon. I mean, it's right there in the name. How would we not have our new Quake game at QuakeCon? Make any sense? But right now, we're not at QuakeCon. We're at E3, the biggest week in gaming, and this is the Bethesda E3 showcase. So welcome to everyone here with me and to the millions of you watching online around the world. Thank you for joining us. We planned this showcase just like we make all of our games for you. Now, last year, our showcase kicked off a big year for Bethesda, one of the biggest in our many years of making games. So let me mention just a few highlights. The Elder Scrolls Online was released on console and became one of the best-selling games of 2015 and was named MMO of the Year. We launched Fallout Shelter, the very first mobile game from Bethesda Game Studios, and it became an instant hit and winner of multiple Mobile Game of the Year awards. In November, Fallout 4 was one of the biggest launches in the industry. So you've heard of it. Good. And won numerous Game of the Year awards, including at DICE and again at the BAFTA Awards. And now Fallout 4 is bringing user mods to Xbox One and soon to PS4 in a way that's never been seen before. And just last month, the new Doom was released to rave reviews. Now, the original Doom almost single-handedly popularized first-person shooter games, and now you have a new Doom game, faithful to its legacy with some of the best graphics and gameplay ever, and millions of fans have been enjoying the fast-paced action and creating and sharing mods using SnapMap. The response to all of these games has been amazing, and your enthusiasm and support for us has encouraged us to go even bigger. You just heard about our new Quake game. Let's see what else we have planned for you guys. At last year's showcase, I told you about The Elder Scrolls Legends, a free-to-play collectible card game. Now, as I said last year, I am a huge fan of these games. I play them a lot. So this is a game I'm particularly excited about. Legends provides a very deep strategy experience through both single and multiplayer modes, beginning with a campaign complete with a compelling story, interesting characters, and some great gameplay. The story is told from the perspective of a moth priest named Kellen. I'll let him tell you a little more as we take a look at the campaign's opening cinematic.
The Elder Scrolls show us what was, and what yet will be. And they have revealed much to me.
Spare us your stories, old man, unless they can sharpen spears. Our war chief is dying. Our enemies are massing for another attack. We must prepare for battle.
We should go, Kellen. We have the scroll we came for. And this one smells blood in the wind.
Patience, Nog. I have words yet to speak here. Stories can do surprising things, Spear Maiden, whether they are true or not. And
Uh-oh.
Looks like we lost some connection there.
Get a refresh going.
Rated M for mature.
Looks like we moved on to Dishonored 2 now here. Getting an advertisement here.
When Legends begins, you're
we
set
go.
on
Okay,
a
we're
path to
back to
discover
the
the
real
world
stuff.
of the Elder Scrolls in a way you haven't seen before. The choices you make define your approach and unlock all the depth the game has to offer. A two-lane battlefield provides more variety and strategic depth. Players make decisions that change the cards they want to improve or add to their decks. And we offer a full single-player campaign, as well as multiple ways to play against the AI or other players in both battle and arena modes. Now, we began public beta testing in April, and so far the feedback from the people who have been playing has been terrific. To celebrate E3 this week, we'll be letting even more of you into the beta to start playing. Now, if you haven't signed up yet, just visit Bethesda.net, create an account, and sign up, and be sure to keep an eye on your email. Also tonight, we're very pleased to announce that in addition to PC and iPad, Legends will be coming to iPhone, Mac, and Android tablets and phones later this year. As I said, I'm very excited about Legends as it brings together an award-winning franchise that I love and a new genre. And whether you're a veteran strategy card fan or have never played a game before, it's a game we think you'll all really enjoy. And now, so long as we're on the topic of Legends, let's take a look at what the team at Bethesda Game Studios has been hard at work on.
Welcome here to Bethesda Game Studios. It's amazing to think it has only been a year since you first heard about Fallout 4 at this very event. And thanks to you, it became not just our most popular game ever, but one of the industry's. It has simply blown us away, and we're incredibly blessed to have fans like you. Seeing what you've created, not just in the main game with the add-ons and of course mods, it is just incredible. And we're not done yet. We're excited to show you what's coming next for Fallout 4.
We're going to get some expansion stuff.
Yeah, some DLC, I'm thinking.
No. Lots of new options for the creation suite.
Yeah, next week. Okay.
Very cool. That's pretty cool. Get to build some underground stuff now.
looks interesting.
Okay.
Finally.
Finally.
Oh, look. It's like Fallout Shelter.
Except in the real game.
It's all over, but the crying, and I can't get over crying over you.
Is this an amusement park, it looks like?
I guess.
Of course, we didn't just announce Fallout 4 last year. We also announced and released Fallout Shelter, which over 50 million of you have downloaded and played. We have a really big update coming out. Take a look.
PC version for Fallout Shelter.
We hope you're as excited as we are about all of the stuff coming to Fallout. We want to thank you again, not just for your support over the last year, but your support of our whole studio really over the last 20 years. There is something else, though, that you've been asking us about, and yes, we've been working on it.
Skyrim remaster?
That certainly looks like it.
Oh, wow. It's quite an overhaul. It's more significant than I expected.
There's been so much work done by modders in this space. It's great to see Bethesda kind of continuing to keep up with their own mod community and offering something that's a meaningful new addition.
Speaking of mods.
Yeah. Special edition.
October 28th is when that one comes out.
Gonna be a busy month.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the president and co-creative director of Arcane Studios, Rafael Colantonio.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm very excited to be here tonight on behalf of Arcane Studios, the makers of Dishonored.
Nice shirt.
Our passion is for a very specific kind of game, first-person immersive games. Our games blend narration and simulation in a way that makes every player's experience different, where players can improvise and where choices have consequence. Our games encourage replay in order to try different playstyles so that players are free to play their own way. In 2012, we released Dishonored. We were thrilled that the game was so well received by the gamers and the critics all around the world. That was like one of the best feelings for us developers. After that launch, my friend and co-director Harvey Smith took the lead on Dishonored 2, so he went to France in Lyon and worked with the team over there. Meanwhile, I have been busy in Austin working on something else with the team in Austin. And tonight, I have a surprise for you. I'm going to reveal what that surprise is in a minute. It's a new game built on the values that are so dear to Arcane. It's another first-person immersive game set in a dangerous universe, only this time we've added a psychological thrill. Here is the world's first look at what we've been up to.
Good morning, Morgan. Today is Monday, March 15th, 2032. You have a 9 a.m. appointment with Alex in his office. There is no duration set for this meeting. There is a 3 p.m. meeting in TranStar Conference Room A to greenlight research and development plans. Please confirm your attendance prior to arrival. The most recent test results from the Cybertron. Good morning, Morgan. Today is Monday, March 15th, 2032. You have a 9 a.m. appointment with Alex in his office. There is no duration. Good morning, Morgan. Today is Monday, March 15th, 2032. You have a 9 a.m. appointment.
Good morning, Mort. Looks like we have some tests to run through today.
Good morning, Morgan. You're not going to like what I have to say next.
Very cool.
Okay.
Very unusual.
Yeah.
Very mysterious.
We'll talk about it more later, but I'm on board to see more of that.
Yeah.
I'm interested in that a lot.
Prey, you awaken aboard Talos 1, a very special space station. It is year 2032. You are the key subject of an experiment meant to alter humanity forever. But things have gone wrong, of course. The space station has been overrun by an alien threat, and you are now being hunted. As you dig into the dark secrets of Talos 1 and your own past, you must survive using all the tools at your disposal on board of the station. Your wits, weapons, and mind-bending abilities. Prey will be available next year on Xbox One, PS4, and PC. We'll have more to show at the QuakeCon, so be sure to join us there. Thank you.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Not like
Hi, everyone.
didn't
I'm
have
Marty
some
Stratton,
expectation
executive
of it,
producer
but
of Doom at
it's
id
neat.
Software. Last month, we had the privilege of releasing one of the most iconic titles in our industry to fans around the world. We challenged ourselves to ensure Doom lived up to its incredible legacy, and we thank you, our fans, for making the Doom launch such a tremendous success. It's been amazing to watch and hear from the millions of players enjoying the many aspects of the game. From those of you gunning for the perfect run through the campaign, to others constantly testing their skills in multiplayer, you continue to inspire our team. Last year, we told you we wanted to put the power of creation in the hands of every player through Doom SnapMap, allowing for an endless stream of new gameplay. And in the coming months, we're excited to be supporting Doom SnapMap with free updates and even more ways to play. We'll be delivering new construction modules, including hell visual themes, as well as new props, objects, weapons, and items. While creators can look forward to new logic options and functionality, like the ability to create true single-player experiences with features like the popular weapon wheel found in the campaign. And again, throughout the year, every SnapMap feature and update is free for every player. For multiplayer, next month we'll release 2 new modes, including a uniquely Doom variant of One Flag CTF called Exodus, as well as an all-new multi-zone capture and hold mode called Sector. Later this summer, we'll turn up the heat with the release of 3 free-for-all modes, including Classic Deathmatch. These modes will be free to all players and playable on any existing or future maps. Also next month, fans can look forward to our first premium Doom DLC pack, Unto the Evil. The first DLC pack includes 3 new multiplayer maps, Offering, Cataclysm, and Ritual. A new playable demon called the Harvester, a new gun, equipment item, armor sets, taunts, and more. With just a month past since our launch, we hope you've only scratched the surface of fun we packed into the game, and we can't wait to give you even more ways to compete, create, play, and fight like hell. Thank you.
Very cool. Good to see some ongoing support for such a great game as Doom.
Yeah, no campaign DLC though.
No.
Sounds like.
Wow, ton of great stuff there for everyone that's enjoying Doom. And again, we thank you, the fans, for making it such a hit. Doom has received near universal acclaim from critics and players alike for its fast combat, over-the-top demons, and amazing graphics, everything that it is known for. Now, it is also known as a longtime supporter of shareware, or for you youngsters in the audience, that's what us old guys used to call a demo. And in a nod to that tradition, we've decided to offer anyone that hasn't checked out Doom's amazing gameplay a chance to do it for free. So, starting tonight, you can download and play the first level of Doom on Steam, PS4, or Xbox One for free.
Should draw in some new players.
Now, this offer is only good this week, but we want everyone to have a chance to see why Doom is one of the highest-rated shooters ever. So if you love super intense action or you just want to experience state-of-the-art gaming, go download Doom and fight like hell on us. We think you'll see what everyone else is talking about. Now, let's shift from Demons of Hell to Daedric Princes and Secret Assassin Cults. Please welcome from ZeniMax Online Studios, the Elder Scrolls Online game director, Matt Firor. Matt?
Like we thought about, or like we talked about, sounds like we're going to get some new details about what's going on with their big MMO.
I'm thinking expansion.
I'm thinking you're probably right. We'll see, though.
Good evening. This week is the one-year anniversary of the launch of the Elder Scrolls Online on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Because we were launching the game this time last year, I was a little busy and I wasn't able to be here in person, but I made sure I was here this year to tell everyone what's been happening with the Elder Scrolls Online. From the console launch last June to the release of 3 critically acclaimed DLC game packs during the year, all of us at ZeniMax Online have been really, really busy. But before I go any further, I want to take a moment and thank all of our fans for your support, your enthusiasm, and your feedback. We take it really seriously, and we continue to work to improve the game. And based on the response, you like the changes. Elder Scrolls Online was named the best MMOG of 2015, was one of the best-selling games of the year of any kind, and now supports a highly engaged community of over 7 million of you who have been exploring this enormous world of Tamriel. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from the Elder Scrolls Online from launch onward.
I like that they have stats on that. There's at least one fan who's really enthusiastic out there. As you can see, the Elder Scrolls Online community is having a lot of fun playing the game. And our player community is still growing. Tonight, I'm very happy to announce that on June 23rd, we'll be expanding internationally by launching Elder Scrolls Online in Japan. We look forward to welcoming these fellow adventurers to the exciting world of Tamriel. And for everyone who plays, we have a lot more great content on the way. For me, one of my favorite moments in any RPG ever was the Dark Brotherhood quest in the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. It was packed full of assassination and intrigue, and like me, fans everywhere loved it. So I'm particularly excited for the launch of the Dark Brotherhood DLC game pack on Xbox One and PlayStation 4 this Tuesday. In the Dark Brotherhood DLC, you'll travel to another location from Oblivion, the Gold Coast of Cyrodiil.
The Dark Brotherhood has an appropriately dark storyline full of intrigue and mystery and brings all new repeatable quest gameplay to ESO. So, please enjoy the worldwide debut of the Dark Brotherhood DLC launch trailer.
Sweet mother, send your child unto me. For the sins of the unworthy must be baptized in blood and fear. This is the Black Sacrament, Initiate, a contract that calls for murder. Now go, assassin. Take your blade into the night. Be rewarded for your service in our business of death. Welcome, Initiate, to the Dark Brotherhood. And know this, in Tamriel, no one is safe. Especially from us.
Sweet mother, send your child unto me.
A lot of excitement for an already announced DLC.
It really is.
Our PC players are already having fun sneaking around Tamriel and learning more about this mysterious group. And we can't wait to see what happens when our console players get to experience the Dark Brotherhood this week. But that's not all. A core philosophy in the Elder Scrolls Online is to constantly make the game better. Since launch, we've regularly been adding innovative features such as the Justice system and the Champion system, and we're about to make another game changer. Tonight, we're announcing One Tamriel, marking another major evolution of gameplay in the Elder Scrolls Online. With One Tamriel, all characters will be automatically leveled to content in the world, allowing them to freely group with anyone they want, and also to explore the vast world of Tamriel with no level restrictions. This means all content barriers are gone and there are no restrictions on alliances or questing. From the moment you get out of the tutorial, the entire game world is open for you to explore freely. You can go wherever you want and play with whomever you want. This is the first time this has ever been done in a multi-platform RPG. We'll think you'll love it. One Tamriel will be coming to the Elder Scrolls Online this fall. In closing, I want to thank the awesome Elder Scrolls Online community for your support. We never take it for granted. We work hard every day to make your Elder Scrolls Online experience the awesome adventure you want and deserve. Thanks, everyone.
Well, independent of some very enthusiastic fans in the audience, that's a cool addition. That seems like an interesting way to draw players into getting to see the part of the games that they want to see.
Now, we want you to get as much as possible out of this year's showcase. So, this year, after we're done here in the hangar, we're just going to keep the showcase going. Now, for those of you watching at home, our pre-show hosts, Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb, will be back to take over the stream, and they'll bring you exclusive interviews and more information about all the games that we're talking about here tonight. Here in Los Angeles, we've built an interactive space over on the other side of the lot where you have a chance to learn more about our games, play some of them, and meet some of our developers. Over there is also food, drink, and to make sure it's a real party, we have arranged a special performance by Blink-182, who will drop their new album, California, in a couple of weeks, and you get to hear them live tonight as they start their summer tour. Now, we have another treat for you over there as well, a chance to experience the latest in virtual reality from Bethesda. Ooh. Weren't expecting that, were you? Now, the first time anyone experienced modern VR was at E3 2012, and if you were there and lucky enough, you may remember getting to play Doom 3 BFG in our booth. Now, at the time, we had solved some of the toughest technology challenges posed by VR, and people were amazed. Since then, we've quietly continued our pioneering work in VR, and tonight, we want you to see and experience what you feel when you put on a headset and play the latest AAA games in the industry. Now, we have two games for you to experience. The first is the just-released Doom. You can take a virtual tour of hell and get a totally unique look at the very latest in graphics and true next-gen rendering from our Intech 6 engine.
Yeah.
In addition, we think the greatest promise of VR is its ability to immerse players completely into virtual worlds, and that the best games for that experience will be first-person open-world RPGs. So we have Fallout 4 for you to play as well. Wander the Wasteland, check out the iconic Red Rocket, try combat. I'm telling you, with a Pip-Boy on your arm, a dog by your side, a gun in your hand, it's pretty incredible. Tonight, we're pleased to announce that Fallout 4 will be released in 2017 on the HTC Vive platform.
Not Oculus.
That's a big get
And
for
if you
Vive.
thought survival mode was an intense way to experience Fallout, you ain't seen nothing yet. We want to give you a glimpse into where we're headed with VR, where you can expect us to remain a leader, offering our games on the very best platforms you choose. So be sure to check it out. Now, for more on the second half of the showcase, let's check in with Adam and Morgan to see what's happening and get an update on what they have planned. Adam, Morgan, what do you have for us?
Thanks, Pete. Now, we are here at BE3+, and this is sort of this experience that you guys are going to get to see after the showcase. We have some Bethesda VR over here. Now, right now, there's no line, so that's kind of tempting, isn't it?
So taking advantage of that. And over here, Elder Scrolls Legends, for everyone to play. Pete, I fully expect to see you at one of these tables showing off that card mastery skill I know you possess.
Now, in here, Adam and I are actually going to be interviewing some of the developers that you guys just saw their games on stage, so we're going to have a lot more information for you. So everybody on the stream needs to stay tuned for that after the showcase.
Lots of good info, but for the moment, let's go back to Pete and even more games.
Thank you, Adam and Morgan. We will see you guys in a few minutes. But we are not going anywhere just yet because there is one more thing that we think you are going to want to see. Last year, we announced that a sequel to Dishonored was in development, marking a new chapter to the Game of the Year from Arcane Studios. We shared a few tidbits about the sequel, but for the most part, you could say we've been in stealth mode. Until now. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Dishonored 2 is going to be a very special game, one that lives up to its celebrated legacy and then goes way beyond. To tell you more, please join me in welcoming the creative director of Dishonored 2, Harvey Smith.
Big night for Arcane.
It's going to be a very special game, Miller.
So.
Wow. Thanks, Pete. Hi, everybody. In Dishonored, you play a supernatural assassin in a steampunk city. The game blends combat, stealth, and mobility, giving you many different pathways and approaches. When the original Dishonored was released in 2012, you embraced the game and made it your own. You discovered moves and combinations of powers that we didn't even imagine. We were thrilled by your passion for Dishonored, and we were humbled by the success of the game, which won more than 100 Game of the Year awards. At last year's E3, we announced Dishonored 2. So tonight, here with all of you for the first time, we're going to show you the game. Welcome back to the Empire of the Isles, a rich, Victorian-inspired fantasy world with a distinct style and an exotic cast of characters. For Dishonored 2, we wanted to explore a new location, Karnaca, the Jewel of the South. Our approach to world creation is very layered. Our art and design teams work together to create a strong sense of place with a well-realized culture. It's based on the people living there, the work they do, the architecture, economy, the climate, even the food and songs. In order to bring Karnaca to life, we've created a custom game engine designed to support our signature art direction and level design. We wanted Dishonored 2 to resemble a painting in motion, so we've given considerable thought to our lighting and the way it plays across every surface. We've created custom tools to support the interruptible, real-time narrative scenes necessary for a stealth simulation. And the same is true for our approach to audio, both in terms of atmospherics and stealth gameplay. All of these details make Karnaca more vivid thanks to our new technology, which we call the Void Engine. In crafting spaces for you to explore, we've got several creative goals. We want the environment to feel coherent and complete, plausible. Where do these characters live and how do they get to work? Is there a viable pathway that makes sense? Where do they take their breaks or stop for lunch? But it goes further than that. For Dishonored 2, we felt compelled to ask ourselves about the history of a given street or shop. What was there a decade before the player arrives in Karnaca? Often you can see the layers of history, watermarks on the wall from past floods, peeling posters and advertisements from years ago. We want every market, every alley to tell a story and to offer you the chance to see something novel or intriguing. Dishonored 2 starts and ends in Dunwall, but most of the action takes place here in Karnaca. All right, there you go, your first look at Dishonored 2. Thank you. On behalf of all my teammates at Arcane and Lyon who worked so hard to bring this to you, and my dear friend Rafael Colantonio, thank you so much for all the passion you've given the game. In the first Dishonored game, you played Corvo Attano, falsely accused of killing the Empress, the woman he loved and was sworn to protect, and you were blamed for the abduction of their daughter, Emily Caldwin. After escaping on the night of his execution, Corvo is gifted with supernatural powers and dedicates himself to avenging the death of the Empress and restoring young Emily to the throne. As we began to work on Dishonored 2, a single question haunted us. What became of Emily Caldwin? How would her experiences affect her, and what kind of ruler would she become? We envisioned Emily grown up, 25 years of age, and then we began to imagine what she'd be like as a heroic figure, as someone fighting for her life against the forces of deceit. We developed a vision for Emily Caldwin that excited us, and at E3 last year, we shared that vision with the world. Dishonored 2 is set 15 years after the first game. Emily Caldwin rules the Empire, watched over by her father, Corvo Attano.
All hail Her Imperial Majesty, Emily Caldwin.
Loyal subjects, we're going through a difficult time, but today we honor my mother, the late Jessamine Caldwin. May her memory survive through the ages.
Emily.
You look tired, Father.
Every year, I think the anniversary of Jessamine's death will be easier, but it never is.
I wish Mother was still the Empress. I don't think I'm very good at this.
You're still learning. Don't worry about the rabble-rousers, and we'll catch the Crown Killer, eventually.
People are saying it's you, that these assassinations are a misguided effort to protect me.
No, someone's trying to make us look guilty by targeting your enemies.
I wish I could just run away from all this.
Sometimes you do. You think I don't know about your nights out on the rooftops? Courage. The ceremony will be over soon.
Royal Protector and Father. I should have passed a law against that combination of titles years ago.
When an otherworldly usurper seizes the throne, the fate of the Empire is left hanging in the balance. Dishonored 2 offers you the choice of playing as Empress Emily Caldwin or the Royal Protector, Corvo Attano. Emily and Corvo are both fully voiced this time with their own perspectives and emotional responses to the events transpiring around them. Whether you choose to play Whoever you choose to play, you've got to flee Dunwall, your home, and travel to Karnaca in order to unravel the threads of a conspiracy and take back what's yours.
Gotta get away. I should talk to the captain of that ship.
Dishonored is known for unscripted, simulation-driven missions where no two players ever have the same experience. There are many pathways to explore as you penetrate well-defended locations, numerous ways to find and eliminate nefarious targets. In crafting the missions for Dishonored 2, we've put a much greater emphasis on big, interesting themes, either from a gameplay or fictional standpoint, making each mission a wildly unique place to explore. I'll explain a little bit more about that. Today we're going to show you the Dust District, an industrial ruin ravaged by terrible storms that hit at random intervals. In the Dust District, a militant religious faction called the Overseers is at war with the Howler Gang. The leaders of both factions are trying to take each other down. You can side with the Overseers or the Howlers or neither. There are many ways to complete the mission.
She'll tell you more. I'll wait here in the skiff and take you back to the dreadful whale after you finish.
Everything you see here is rendered in the Void engine, designed to create atmospheric and exploration-rich spaces. To reach our target, Vice Overseer Byrne, we've got to get past a Grand Guard checkpoint sealed off by a wall of light, a cruel security device reinstated by the Duke of Serkonos.
Orders from the Duke. We're losing too many people. Good soldiers blinded by that hallucinogenic powder the Howlers used, then stabbed to death or dragged down by the Abbey's hounds. One young lieutenant got hit by an Overseer grenade, and that was it. He was one of the Duke's distant cousins or something.
Shit. Let's hope they do enough damage to each other so the fight goes out of them.
That won't happen until someone manages to kill either Paulo or Vice Overseer.
We've made much greater use of vertical space for Dishonored 2, encouraging players to explore the rooftops above the streets.
Out of my ears.
Dust from the mines.
The storm alters visibility for the AI and for the player. A random storm hits and Emily comments on it. Many of the security devices in Dishonored 2 are powered by wind, a unique feature of Karnaca. So here we're switching off the windmill to get through the wall of light. There'll be a lot going on in this next fight. Drop attack, guards climbing and vaulting, combat choke, and Emily using far reach to pull an explosive whale oil tank toward her from a distance.
You aren't going in!
So dead! Let Enter the road for you! Hey, you! Come here!
All right, let's jump forward closer to our target, Vice Overseer Byrne. The Overseers are fighting the Howler Gang for the hearts and minds of the people of Karnaca. What happens here will influence Karnaca's future and the endgames.
The Vice Overseer hasn't shared his plans with me. He's upstairs now, so I assume we'll learn something before long.
Here we're going to use Emily's Mesmerize power to lull a group of Overseers into a stupor, evading combat altogether. Mesmerized, they won't notice Emily or even remember that she was here.
There you are. I feel so empty right now.
Far Reach can be upgraded not only to pull objects from a distance, but also enemies, so you can finish them off in midair. This time, all of Emily's powers, which are new, and all of Corvo's can be fully upgraded using entirely new skill trees, giving you the ability to customize more deeply. If you're new to the Dishonored series, it's all about options and exploration, playing at your own pace. The game has many different pathways through each mission, and also different approaches, stealth or combat, lethal or non-lethal, and a wide array of supernatural powers that will dramatically change the experience as you play. We're very close to Vice Overseer Byrne's office now.
The Sisters of the Oracular Order have seen it, and I feel it in my bones. So this stalemate with the Howlers must be resolved.
Byrne is giving a briefing using a projector. We're going to plant a stun mine and then link several of the Overseers with Emily's domino power, so that whatever happens to one of them will happen to all of them. They share the same fate.
Died trying to bring power. We suffered fatal injuries. Somehow he comes back the next day to fight again. Whatever witchcraft he has.
Switching off the projector will attract Vice Overseer Byrne's attention, and when the mine affects one Overseer, it will affect all of them.
Go check, brother.
Right away.
There are many creative ways to use Domino. Now we're going to show you Shadow Walk, another key power for Emily. Shadow Walk is useful for stealth and combat. You saw it in the announced trailer that we made for the game, and you can fully use it in the game. Like all the powers, it can be upgraded in a variety of ways. With Vice Overseer Byrne out of the picture, the leader of the Howlers will owe Emily a favor, and that's just one way to complete the Dust District mission. Before closing today, we want to demonstrate another signature environment from a mission called A Crack in the Slab. It's another example of the missions in Dishonored 2 and how they're built around big, interesting themes. This mission takes place in a ruined manor that's been sealed for several years. At the start, the outsider appears and explains that reality was warped inside this place after an occult event. Your supernatural powers won't work inside the manor, and even time behaves strangely, allowing you to travel back and forth between the ruined present and the past when the manor was lavish and refined. Here we're in the present when the manor is in ruins. Now we've moved backwards, years into the past, when the manor was still inhabited and guarded. Looking through the lenses of the outsider's timepiece, you can see the alternate timeline. This is useful for solving puzzles, as you've seen, but it can also be used to avoid or take down enemies. You can watch enemies in the alternate timeline and then step through to execute your plans. We hope you're going to love the game as much as we do.
That's very cool.
Thank you. Thank
the
you.
last piece, about the timepiece.
Yeah, that's a really interesting
I have to once
ability.
again give a shout out to my team in France. They've worked so hard and they are so passionate about the game. And the first game, they're really ready for you to get you guys to get your hands on it. And you don't have to wait long. All of you can leave your mark on the Empire of the Isles because Dishonored 2 will release on PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and PC November 11th, 2016. But before I go, I've got one more thing for you. This is the worldwide launch of the Dishonored 2 gameplay trailer. You're seeing it here first. Good night.
Walk on, gold dust woman. Take your silver spoon and dig your grave. Wake up in the morning, see your sunrise lost to go down, to go down. Did you make you cry, make you break down, shatter your illusions of love? Tell me, is it over now? Do you know how to pick up the pieces and go home? Walk on, ancient queen, follow those who pale in your shadow. Rulers make bad lovers. You better put your kingdom up for sale. Up for sale. Did you make you cry, make you break down, shatter your illusions of love? Now tell me, is it over now? Do you know how to pick up the pieces and go home? Go home. Go home. Pale shadow.
Very excited about Dishonored 2. Could I please have another round of applause for the very shy and took off Harvey Smith and everyone at Arcane Studios. Those guys are fantastic. They've been working their butts off. Now, one of the things that Dishonored fans have been asking about a lot is whether or not we're going to do a collector's edition. So tonight, I'm happy to confirm that yes, we will be doing a limited number of Dishonored 2 collector's editions. The collector's edition comes with a very cool replica of Corvo's mask as well as Emily's ring, and it'll be available through retailers around the globe, but supplies are limited, and as we saw with Fallout 4 last year, and you know who you are, they go out quickly. So if you want one, I suggest that you pre-order one before they all go away. Also, if you pre-order or digitally pre-purchase any version of Dishonored 2 for a limited time only, you will get a free copy of Dishonored Definitive Edition, which includes the original critically acclaimed game plus all of the add-on content remastered for the current generation of consoles. Cool. Now, games like Dishonored 2 and all of the games that we've shown here tonight don't happen by accident. There are wonderfully talented, dedicated people working hard every day to build games that thrill and inspire all of us. And I want to take a moment to recognize and thank the entire Bethesda team and all of our studios. So if you take a look, you'll see teams from all over the world who are joining us now. Would you please welcome me, would you please join me in thanking them all for their incredible and dedicated work? Thank you very much. That was great. So, from Quake Champions to Dishonored 2, from The Elder Scrolls Legends to Prey, plus all of the new content for Doom, The Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 4, and Fallout Shelter, and the latest in virtual reality gaming, it should be another big year for Bethesda. Now, this has already been a great night, and we want to commemorate this moment and give you guys something special to remember it by. So for all of you here in Los Angeles, when you leave tonight, you'll get a special T-shirt. Commemorating this event and all of the games that we've shown. And for those of you watching the stream at home, Adam and Morgan have T-shirts to give away, so keep watching for a chance to get yours. And that is everything we have to show you from this stage. So if you're here with me in the hangar, you can head over to the other side of the lot. If you're watching online, don't go anywhere. Adam and Morgan are about to take over the second half of the stream. For the rest of our showcase, from all of us at Bethesda, thank you all so much for playing our games and joining us. That's it for me. Have a great night. Adam and Morgan, take it away.
All right. So as Bethesda continues to do their own sort of post-show coverage and doing some interviews and special looks, ongoing looks at their game, we want to talk about what we just saw on Bethesda's second E3 showcase that they've done here, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, they had a lot of stuff. If you look at it out as a list, you know, there were a few big, maybe one or two really big things to take away from it, but they showed a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, as expected. As I think a lot of people were kind of the mind that, it'd be a little bit weird if we don't hear about something new from the Quake franchise. Yeah. Sure enough, the press conference started with a look at the new Quake Champions, which I thought was really interesting. They are keeping it with the focus on kind of competitive multiplayer that's always been a big part of the Quake brand. As they pointed out, this is a series that's been around for a really long time. It's a 20-year mark this year, and there's still a lot of people who play even the old games. But for me, the big takeaway was, at least from the trailer that they showed off, it seems that they're doubling down on the idea of kind of unique classes, class-based kind of play, which echoes something that we've seen across the first-person shooter market, whether you look at something like Destiny in the last couple of years, or something like Overwatch, which just recently released. The idea of having a bunch of interesting balance going on between multiple character classes, multiple heroes, has been a big push from any number of different developers and publishers. And I don't know, it's hard not to draw the conclusion that that's kind of the direction that Quake is going as well.
Yeah, different classes, different abilities, definitely. That was what I took away from that video that they showed, which was not gameplay by any means.
Right.
When I saw the woman with the blue hair zipping around, I very cleverly wrote out the word Overwatch, but turned the O into a Q.
Yes.
And tapped you, and I said, "Hey, look how clever I am."
You were really excited.
And you
about
politely acknowledged me and looked away. But that's not.
How do you pronounce that?
Quoverwatch.
Quoverwatch.
But to be fair, I didn't see that, and I was like, "Oh my God, they're just ripping off Overwatch."
No,
it
not
certainly
at all.
looks.
If
distinct.
anything, Overwatch is ripping off Quake.
Team Fortress, and which you can bring back to Quake. So it's this big circle. But it, we didn't get much from that sort of just CGI trailer, other than just this one's going to be a little more class focused. Is kind of what I took away from it. So
yeah.
And they really want it to be an esport like that, which is an ongoing thing for all shooters. We want professionals to be playing this, and we want people to watch those professionals play this. So
yeah, based on the first two press conferences of E3 2016, it's hard not to recognize that these publishers see some big dollar signs connected to the esports scene. For keeping attention on games over a long spread of time that's a big part of that. Keeping a community engaged over a long period of time. That's all stuff that by embracing esports they get. And it's a challenging battle, right? Because you're asking your player base to not only play your game, but to follow other people playing your game. And I think everybody's still kind of trying to figure out how to do that, how to make a new game friendly for a community to pick up and start thinking about as an esport in its own right.
One thing that they said, which I guess I would take it as a surprise. But one thing they were very clear to say is like that this will be for all skill levels.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably important for Quake, because that is like, if you hear Quake, you're like, well, that's for the pros. You know, like those are the people who've been playing first-person shooters for a long time. I don't know if I want to like explore that world. I'm going to be intimidated. So I think we'll see how that, we'll see what the final product looks like. But it looks like already they're kind of trying to make this more universal.
Yeah, that was the statement that was made that maybe felt the most. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think there's a lot of particularly shooters out there who make the claim that we're going to be friendly to to both high skill expert first person shooter players and to beginners, and that's really hard to do. One of the reasons I think to call back to a recent game that's done this well. One of the reasons that Overwatch has done so well is that it has so many different play styles that it succeeds at that. You do have people who are able to come in who have not played a lot of shooters who can still tackle one of those characters and find some degree of success. Not just because of matchmaking, but simply because the gameplay style that they're being asked to learn isn't about Twitch speed shooting.
Getting cursors over heads.
Yes, even though that part of the experience is there as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see how things come together with Quake, but that's a big challenge.
Yeah, one more quick thing before we move on is that I guess this shouldn't surprise me because of a game like Quake, but considering how much success Bethesda has had in the past with all of its console games, I'm kind of surprised that like they were just like, yeah, this is PC. Like they didn't even kind of like bat an eye at console. Maybe in the future, but I'm surprised that they wouldn't even like hint at it. But hey, we'll see. Maybe this is just going to be a PC game.
Well, we'll see. But nonetheless, new Quake game, big deal.
Yeah.
I was surprised that very shortly after that, they spent a good chunk of their showcase talking about their new card game, Elder Scrolls Legends.
Which is not a new announcement.
No, not a new announcement, and one that we talked about before the show that we were expecting to hear something about, but I was surprised that they spent as much time as they did on it. Clearly, they see this as a competitor to the long-running online Magic community, but maybe even more significantly, the growing community of Hearthstone players out there. There's a lot of digital CCGs out there now that are competing for both time and dollars. I think Bethesda is banking on the strong enthusiasm for the Elder Scrolls brand to carry things forward. Not to mention the fact that they put a big focus this evening on the fact that there is a single-player campaign here. You heard them say that multiple times over the course of their presentation. That's not coincidence. Like, they want to make sure that audience of people who play Skyrim, who played Oblivion, those people know that they can return to this world they're excited about and have a narrative to make their way through.
What did you think of that cutscene that they showed?
That was interesting.
That was
with
that's
the
a
owl.
good word to put it.
You like the owl?
The owl looked cool.
Yeah.
The other guys kind of looked like they were dressed up and photographed and then photoshopped a little bit.
Well, it is a game that I'm curious to learn more about.
Sure.
I like the idea of there being both single player and multiplayer thing.
Yeah, campaign, I mean, that's important. Like that is, I'm not a big card game guy, but that is like interesting to me, especially like if they're going to use Elder Scrolls as a jumping off point, which is at its most successful when it is a single player RPG.
Absolutely. Bethesda talked about the beta for that is expanding even as we speak this week, but they're looking at a what sounds like a full release later this year.
Lots of platforms, Android, I guess they announced, right? And iPhone, Mac.
You'd be hard pressed to not be able to find a platform that you own. Yeah, right. I mean, between phones and all the other ways that we play games, I think they're going to go out of their way to make sure that if you want to play Elder Scrolls Legends, you can. We saw some new stuff for Fallout 4. Kind of came up next. They showed off a bunch of options for the kind of creator people who enjoyed that aspect of the Fallout 4 experience.
Definitely seems like that was not an aspect of the game that personally was very interesting to me, but I like seeing what people make with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that announcement was mostly for those people who have gone and done really interesting things with it, because the things they showed were like elevators, rails, like that's really diving in deep to
It
hyper-specific things that I think that community has been demanding, to the point where I was like, oh, I didn't know that wasn't already in the game.
Right.
You know, because I
Right.
just didn't get that deep into that creation aspect. But for those, like, it's kind of like a not a very exciting announcement, I think, for the average Fallout player, but I think for the player that really loves building something in that world,
Yeah.
they probably got a lot out of that, and we're probably very excited to see what was happening.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the contraptions thing, which is coming in the next in coming days, really.
Yeah.
It is something that's a little bit more targeted to those hardcore players. The next step past that is in July. They're moving over towards building your own vault, having underground
that's
creation
interesting. That's
spaces,
pretty
which
cool.
I think is a little broader reach.
Yeah, it looked like you'd even have to like defend against like marauders and
Yeah.
stuff, which that's almost like taking that shelter experience, which they kind of hinted at with that thing at the end showing the side view, and like putting that into the game. Maybe I'm giving it too much credit, but that's an interesting idea to be able to go underground and build things.
Exactly. And then pushing out into August, they have, I didn't know what exactly this was, this amusement park, the
Nuka-
Wasteland
what was it, Nuka
Vacation.
Town?
Nuka
Nuka-
World, I
Nuka
think it
World.
was.
Okay.
Maybe they've already, even as we've been on the stream here, already started to talk about exactly what that August release is.
God, I hope I can get on a Ferris wheel. I just
Yeah?
want to get on a Ferris wheel.
That's all you want out of Fallout at this point?
That's it, man.
Be on a Ferris wheel?
If I could just go up high and look at stuff, and then come back down, and then maybe go back up again and look at stuff.
Yeah.
I was just I looked at that and I was like, okay, I'm not totally clear on what this is, but more new stuff for Fallout. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, without a doubt, it was cool to see that they have some content on the way for that game. It was clearly really popular for them at the tail end of last year.
Yeah.
And their other Fallout property that had got a lot of attention last year, Fallout Shelter, also getting some new stuff. They have quests coming in. They have a PC version of Fallout Shelter planned for release. So they clearly see that as more than just a shot in the dark game.
I wonder if that game exceeded expectations for them.
Maybe
because they had numbers like about like how many times it's been downloaded and how many people played it. I think they may have underestimated how popular that game was going to be.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool.
We did our pre-show and we talked a lot about, well, there's going to be something related to the main Elder Scrolls kind of franchise, but it's not going to be Elder Scrolls 6. And turns out we do not have to eat our own hats, as we talked about during the pre-show.
When that da-da-da, 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 I was like, oh crap, we're gonna have to. What is this? Elder Scrolls 6? Am I gonna have to come up with some kind of joke about eating my hat near?
No, that was specifically the Skyrim theme as they trotted out the Skyrim Special Edition announcement. This is for PS4 and Xbox One. A relatively, at least in the screens that they showed, relatively dramatic reinvention of the graphical framework for Skyrim.
Yeah, way more substantial than I would have assumed.
Yeah.
I wonder if I'll still be saying that when I'm actually physically playing, like rather than having them side by side, because that like you can really see the stark difference. But it looks like, as opposed to just sort of like making the textures a little sharper, it looks like they've like just like redid a whole bunch of aspects of the engine, like when it like lighting and like just the way sort of the world responds to you, and like stuff like that. Like it seems less about like building new assets and stuff like that. So it looks nice. What they showed looked very very clean and very nice.
Absolutely, and that's targeting an October release, adding to an already busy October that we know there's a lot of games coming out in that time frame already from other publishers as well. So it's a challenging time to release what's effectively an old game.
Yeah. With mods.
With mods, yes. So it
I can
really
finally get that Thomas the Tank Engine dragon in my console version of Elder Scrolls.
what you always wanted, right?
That's all I've wanted, man. That and a Ferris wheel.
Ferris wheel for Fallout. You have small desires, and if they just fulfill those for you, you're good to go.
I'm excited, but I am. That looks cool. I immediately was like, well, I want to play this again.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, as expected, we had a look at the new Prey.
Yeah.
Perhaps to distance itself from the canceled project, it's not called Prey 2.
Yeah.
It's just called Prey.
Yeah. which we already have that game.
That game already exists.
Technically.
Yeah, this is like a trend that we've seen in the last 5 years of game developers just being like, it's been enough time.
Yeah.
Let's just put the name of the game out there again.
It's not a problem. I mean, we don't call it. We just end up calling it that anyway, or maybe the new Doom.
Yeah.
I don't think
Or
any of
Tomb
us.
Raider,
I don't think
another
any of us
example
are
like that.
upset that it's not Doom 4. We're just
Yeah.
like, hey, it's Doom. You know?
Well, and clearly they have market research that suggests that you just give it a single name like that, you don't put a number on it, and you don't scare people away who might otherwise think that they've missed part of the story. I'm sure that's why they do it. Whatever the marketing reasons are behind the name, the game itself is mysterious and very cool looking.
And a lot different from anything, like from Prey 1, and even what was, in the works for its sequel. I don't see any overlap right now,
No, I don't. I think it's safe to say that this is a completely different project from the game that was originally called Prey 2. They did talk about it. It's set in 2032. You're on a space station. There's some experiments being done on the main character, and then aliens show up. It does seem that like the focus on the idea of these kind of like creepy, disturbing alien creatures that you're having to deal with is maybe the carryover component from the original game, even though it's largely seems like it's otherwise its own entity as far as a game goes. But it's a game coming to PS4, Xbox, and PC.
Yeah. I will go ahead and say, and like, I don't know, maybe we should save this for the end. But in terms of what we saw at this press conference, that was easily my favorite thing.
Cool.
I am a sucker for like E3 time, like E3 announcements, just like brand new stuff. Like, and I loved how ambiguous and mysterious it was. One of my favorite things, which has become very popular lately with films like Gravity and The Martian and Interstellar. One of my favorite things is stuff going wrong in space. Like that is, I love that. And so I was very quickly on board with that. It kind of reminded me of this like anime short film by Satoshi Kon called Magnetic Rose, which is very much a stuff going wrong in space and you don't know what is real and what is fake. And so very quickly, I am very interested in this game, Prey. In terms of what they showed here, like that is the thing I'm most excited to learn more about and see more of.
Absolutely. So. And a indication that, man, Arcane is really stepping up. They have 2 teams now, both doing projects that look very interesting, split across 2 different continents, but united by the sort of pioneering work that both Raph and Harvey are doing as co-creative directors for that studio. Those guys are going places.
And I also like the idea that they kind of thematically tied it to Dishonored in a way of like we like to make games like this. It is not going to be like Dishonored. I don't know, maybe it will be, but right now it looks separate from Dishonored, but still shares some of that kind of like, you get to make your choices and influence what's happening, and I like the idea that like this is what we're good at, and we're going to take that in a couple different directions, and it was a big surprise.
I having met and had several conversations with both of those guys, it really is
brag.
It really is central to like what they like think
Love about games.
Exactly. Yeah. Like they talk about that all the time about the other games that they like are those kinds of things. The history for both of them, where they came from in earlier development, is about those kinds of games that are about choice, that are about just how you empower players to do interesting things in a game world and have there be these sort of emergent moments. So it doesn't surprise me that with the announcement of Prey, which is really, I don't know, in my mind it's almost like a new franchise.
That's what it feels like to me.
Even though it has this old name attached to it. It seems like they want to do the same kind of thing that they've done with Dishonored in terms of giving players choices, giving players interesting experiences that they get to create how they move forward through it. There was a little bit of stuff about Doom. Mm-hmm. They spent some time talking about this game that did so well for them just a month ago. Bethesda showed off some new snap map options.
Yeah, kind of in that sort of Fallout, the same thing they sort of announced for Fallout, where it was mostly they want to expand the creation options, which is great. That's interesting. In terms of Doom, I think what I want from the sort of base that they've established with Doom is more campaign stuff. But like expanding multiplayer, expanding snap map, giving people more options there, that's great. And the game's only like a month or 2 old, you know, so to already have things lined up that is interesting and cool.
Absolutely. And they did talk, in the vein of single player, they did talk a little bit about giving people mod options that will give more flexibility to be able to create your own single player experiences.
Yeah, and mix up the templates, I think, is
yes.
like another thing that they're trying to do.
And we also learned about the a new Exodus and Sector game modes. These are new multiplayer modes that they announced. So again, only a month after launch, having that new content on the way is pretty cool. These are going to be new game modes for free, I believe they said. And then on top of that,
free, all free.
Except Onto the Evil is, I think, a separate thing. I think the idea there was that that may be paid.
Mm-hmm.
But
they kept it kind of intentionally vague.
Yeah, and that's new multiplayer maps, new guns, new playable demon,
new abilities.
Yeah, all sorts of kind of crazy stuff there.
New hand animations in first person.
Yeah,
that was nice.
Doom is a game that plays differently, as a lot of us discovered when we tried it out a few weeks ago for the first time in an extended play session when it released. It's a game that you really have to have the controller in your hands and move around and feel the speed to really understand the magic of it, I think. And to that end, they talked about a free demo.
Yeah, that was a nice little unexpected. Great.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. And it's also one of those things that, like, you can get now,
Mhm.
If you haven't checked out Doom and you're wondering why we're talking about it so much, go play it.
Absolutely.
It's great.
We had a kind of an extended section on Elder Scrolls Online, which if there was any part for the press conference for me that felt like it kind of stumbled a little bit, it was this. It was an extended section on clearly a successful game for Bethesda, but one that they didn't really have a lot to say about. Despite what the fans in the audience, or one fan in particular...
I was about to say, Miller, the reason you're wrong about all this is because clearly there was about 5 or 6 people who may or may not work for Bethesda who are very excited about what was happening on stage.
They were really excited, and a lot of that didn't really hit home for me because it just seemed weird to spend so much time on stage talking about stuff that we kind of already knew a lot about. They talked about how many users they have. They talked about a Japan launch, which is a strange thing to bring big focus to at E3. They talked about the Dark Brotherhood DLC. So that the one thing that really was, I thought, especially cool was this one Tamriel announcement.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
It kind of like went over my head. I don't really understand what's interesting about it. Like you can everyone's kind of brought to like the same level, so it's easier to explore the world. Is that kind of what I'm taking away from it?
I think the idea is that when you play a traditional MMO structure, like let's say World of Warcraft, something like that, you're very much gated in the content that you're engaging with by your level, right? You can't go to the zone that's for level 35 characters if you're level 25. Of
course, yeah.
Right? Here, I think the implication is they want to let people, both with their friends and just with strangers, be able to go into any area of the game, go to the part of the world that you want to discover more about, and play there.
Okay.
With other people.
See, that seems like it's tricky because that, in one case, it does bring in more people to play, but it also, I mean, to a certain degree, eliminates the sort of value of like making yourself stronger in the world. Right? Like you kind of like those rewards that you got to be able to explore more, like now all those people kind of below you are going to be able to do that without as much effort as you.
Maybe so.
We'll see.
Yeah,
like,
we'll see.
It might be balanced in a different way,
We'll see how they handle rewards. I have to imagine that at least some of those, some of the best rewards and things like that would still be reserved for you being at the appropriate level. But that's an interesting observation. It does create a lot of challenges on a development side for like how do you keep progression meaningful? And clearly one of the priorities for that development team at this point is giving people the tools to play together in the way that they want, and that is certainly not a bad goal to have.
Yeah, and I do see it. I also, I'm sort of being down on it, but the one thing I do like about it, potentially, is that it kind of brings it more closer to what people appreciate from a single-player Elder Scrolls, which is you can always go anywhere you want.
Yeah.
Which is maybe that could work in that MMO space. I don't know, and that's what people want from Elder Scrolls. They want to be able to be dropped into a world and go anywhere.
Yeah. So they're talking about that happening in the fall.
Yeah. Oh, I do know there was one woman who was very excited about it.
She was really stoked.
She was super into it.
And can I just say, guys, that the chat absolutely loves her.
Yeah?
They love her
enthusiastic?
as much as she loves
Elder Scrolls Online.
I think.
I mean, there was a lot of enthusiasm expressed there.
Oh man.
So, okay, let me tell you what was one of the things I was most excited about.
Okay.
At the showcase this evening, it was the announcement of Fallout 4 on Vive.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, like I want to step back from this a little bit from just what they're talking about and unpack what that really means for a potential gameplay experience and also for the wider VR world. I spent a lot of time with both the Vive and Rift since their launch because I was working on some of the hardware review stuff. And one of the things that's striking right now is that the Rift seems a little ahead of the game in terms of just polished product that's like finished big games, right? You've got stuff like Chronos on there that really feels like deep, engaging stuff that isn't necessarily the focus of what you have with Vive so far. But Vive, for a lot of the people I've seen play with these two VR systems, does a little bit better job right now of selling the magic of what VR does, right? Of putting you in a virtual space because you have controllers that are letting you interact in a open space and pick objects up and move around and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, being able to walk around is something that really the Vive is only doing currently.
It's a really big deal, but Vive does not yet have quite as many games that feel like those big, rich gameplay experiences. So that brings us back to Fallout 4. The idea that you could go and have this really massive RPG adventure where literally you're holding the presumably, I mean, I'm drawing some conclusions here.
Yeah, they had nothing to show.
Right.
They just said, hey, this is coming, but they didn't show. And it's always tricky to show VR, but they didn't. So we have to kind of make assumptions about how it plays.
We don't know exactly how it's gonna play, but they did sort of imply, and by the choice of putting it on Vive specifically and calling that out, it does imply that you're gonna kind of have a gun in your hand, right? You're gonna be sort of aiming in real space, be kind of walking and moving through this world.
They also implied that like you would look down at your Pip-Boy, like you have to actively bring your arm up to your face.
Yeah,
maybe I'm assuming too much, but that's kind of what I took away from it.
I don't think so. I don't think you're assuming too much. I think you have a very good idea of why they chose Vive to provide that experience. Is going to be it's the first game on that scale that we've heard talked about for VR. And using Vive to really take advantage of that immersive I'm in the world sensation. I don't know. That sounds very, very cool to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's also all those like little concerns, like can Fallout, because you need to run at 90 frames, right? Can Fallout 4 run at 90 frames? Can they get it up there? Fallout 4 is a good but buggy game. Will you be falling through the world and screaming in terror?
Terrifying.
You know, like, but I'm excited to see it. Like that, like you said, that'll be the kind of the first Vive like you're dropped in a huge world. Like I don't know how you'll navigate because you're not going to be physically walking around your house to go from point to point.
We'll
I don't
see
know.
how they handle it.
Fascinating. And I guess the Doom is more they just have a tech demo, it sounds like. It's like what they have at the show, a tour of hell, as they kind of called it.
Yeah, well, we should be hearing any time now from folks who were there at the showcase to what they talked about as being kind of that second interactive portion of things while people listen to Blink-182. Right?
So good.
They're gonna check out some of these games. So maybe we're gonna get to hear a little bit about how that Fallout VR stuff works, how the Doom VR stuff works.
All our previews are going to be like, yeah, you know, we walked around the wasteland, and in the distance, I could hear the musical notes of Blink-182, which seemed like anachronistic to, you know, the music that I'm usually used to in Fallout. So you can just ignore this.
Yeah, they're gonna change up the tone a little bit, right? So from there, their last big focus was.
Dishonored 2.
Dishonored 2. And they spent a big chunk of time on that.
Which we assumed they would. Like,
yes.
We knew they would spend a lot of time on it. And at first, when they first started showing it, I was worried that we weren't going to get a sense of gameplay.
Yeah.
Because they were just showing environments.
Like environment screens, right?
And I was like, is this, are you considering this our first look at the game? Because this does not feel like a first look at the game. This looks like you're just pointing the camera at some environments.
Yes. And admittedly very beautiful. historically interesting environments.
That was a really cool looking turtle. I don't know
Yeah.
if you saw that turtle. I think
It's
it was
exciting
cool.
stuff.
I want to go jump on that thing and hide from soldiers in its shell.
but past that, they start to layer in some stuff of showing off the baseline things that's going on with the story, right? The idea that we see Emily now as Empress working together with her father. Bad things go down.
An unmasked Corvo with a voice. That was interesting to see him that way.
Absolutely. And then we got a couple of different demos showing off this wide array of abilities that you have when you are out there in the gameplay. The one that I thought personally was the coolest was the whole kind of moving into the past thing, the timepiece.
Yeah,
that looked super
very
cool.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot of just like jumping back and forth between time to enact things that happen that could potentially affect what's happening. Because like they showed you killing a soldier in the past and then like almost hiding in the future,
right?
Which is interesting. But presumably you can also do things like break a door that will remain open in the future or something like that. But I mean, just the base of what they showed of like being able to look through that sort of glass to see the past was very cool.
Yeah. We saw just some of the interesting powers that Emily has. You have the crazy shadow walk thing looks extremely creepy and dangerous.
It's like a hook shot, sort of. Yeah.
Well, the shadow walk thing is the actual monster, right?
Yeah, it was like I got like dark. I was thinking of The Darkness when I saw that.
Yeah.
That was interesting. It looks like a very stealthy sort of mechanic.
Yeah, and they talked about how that would integrate in both stealth and combat experiences, which I thought was neat. We saw the domino power in effect.
Yeah, we wrote about that in our cover story.
Yeah.
And I was very intrigued by it when I was proofing our cover story. So it was really cool to see it in action and get a better understanding of how it works.
Absolutely. And they talked about their November 11th release date, along with a collector's edition. They're really pushing the pre-orders even now. They want people to try to get in there.
I think that's almost like reliving that Fallout 4 sort of bombshell of last year where they showed off the Pip-Boy and it was just like exploded. Like everybody wanted that thing. I don't know if everyone's going to be clamoring for that Corvo mask, but it's still cool.
It is cool. The cooler part of that for me, I think, is the idea that people who did not yet get a chance to try out the original Dishonored, the idea that you can pre-order Dishonored 2 and get a copy of the original game.
I'm so glad that seems to be becoming more common.
Yeah.
Like that there's no reason that shouldn't just automatically
I would agree.
be a thing.
This long after a launch of a game, to get people in the door for the sequel, let them play that original. The definitive edition that recently released is really good, makes the game look even better than it originally did, still has all the great gameplay of the game that released back in 2012, I believe. Just overall, Dishonored 2, I think fills, in a different way than Fallout 4 did last year, it fills that need that Bethesda needs to have for kind of a marquee project for the year. That's going to be a really big game for them, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, how do you feel about it compared to last year's? Like, it's kind of hard to beat that first year.
It was hard. I mean, the focus on Fallout 4 at last year's E3, everybody was going completely crazy for that game throughout the show, and the long look that they gave to it, especially set aside a couple of the other press conferences that maybe just weren't as strong and didn't offer those kind of deep dives on particular games. It's hard to beat that, but I do think that Arcane it comes away as the winner tonight.
Yeah,
showing off two games that both look really interesting. Both games that tap into where their expertise lies and clearly where a lot of game players are desiring to go, that kind of choice-driven gameplay. In many ways, I would say that that's my takeaway from the Bethesda showcase is Bethesda's got a good lineup, but man, Arcane is doing some really great work right now.
Yeah, I mean, Arcane is hugely important to their future at this point, I feel like. And I mean, so I've already kind of played my card, I guess, so to speak, of like what my favorite thing was. Like Prey is my favorite thing that I saw from them.
Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite thing? Is there something that stood out to you in particular that as your favorite part of that show?
I don't know if I had a favorite part. There's so much stuff that until we see the games, we actually are playing those games that I don't know how it's all going to shake out. I mean, I think a lot of the games that they showed looked really great, but I think weirdly enough, the announcement that has me the most intrigued is what we just talked about related to the VR stuff.
Okay.
Fallout 4 VR, I think, has the potential to be a real game changer for VR. We, over the course of the next several days, are likely to hear about some other big franchises that may be moving into the VR space, which would be great. But whether you're talking about Vive or Rift, the success of those two sort of burgeoning platforms is going to be reliant on eventually drawing in some of the big publishers and developers to do big projects like Fallout. And the fact that Fallout is going to show up on the Vive becomes something that HTC and Valve can really hang their hat on.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting test bed to see if just your standard game can, transfer directly over to Vive.
Yeah, we'll see. But I think that should do it for us this evening, talking about the Bethesda E3 Showcase 2016. We're going to have a lot more press conference coverage tomorrow as Sony comes up, Microsoft comes up, Ubisoft takes the stage, all sorts of crazy stuff going on tomorrow. We would expect probably the biggest announcements of E3 to come out tomorrow on Monday, and we'll be following that up with what you would expect out of Game Informer throughout the rest of E3 week. We'll have lots of hands-on impressions. We have most of our team out in Los Angeles as we speak. They're going to be going to booths, visiting game developers, checking out game demos, and we'll have all the impressions and previews that come out of that showing up here over the course of the next several days. So if ever there was a week to pay attention, this is it. A lot of cool stuff coming up. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you back tomorrow.
Thanks so much for watching, everybody.